We are at Nimrod's castle, way up in the air right now. Way up in the air. You scan across this thing.
Working for Nimrod building this wasn't any joy.
Place is just immense, huge. But what a view of any marauding armies coming up to get you from here. Very protected. The fortress has 21 towers. In 1275, the northwestern tower was expanded by Billick and 2 stories were added.
Okay, wait a minute.
Get a view of that.
Take your time, people. Take your time. If you need to pause and catch your breath.
Way to drop off.
Absolutely should do that.
You too? Thank you.
They look like this.
Sneak up on you from here.
מה השעה עכשיו? 12 כזה, 12, זה ברבע, מקסימום.
So, before I start talking about the whole history of the place, we'll understand a little bit where we are. First of all, when the fortress was built, and it was built in 1227, that was the western gate. The tower that we're standing on didn't exist at the time. It was built about 30 years later. When it was built 30 years later, it was the tower of one of the sultans that ruled this area. How do we know that a sultan sat literally in this tower? Because there's a toilet behind it. And no one's building a toilet for just anyone. If there's a toilet here, and we're talking about years that to build the toilet was something like a month of work, then probably the sultan sat in this tower. Of course, that next to the toilet, there's a cistern. We have about 19 water holes or cisterns in the tower. Water was never a problem here. As I said before, the 3 origins of the Jordan are just underneath us. And if you dig in the rock for 12, 13, 15, 20 feet, you reach water. So water wasn't a problem anytime. The western gate, when it was built in the beginning, in 1227, has an inscription on the top with a few words in Arabic. Does anyone know how to read Arabic? No. Which is excellent, because I can tell whatever I want now. Once upon a time, exactly. So, as any inscription, first of all, in the first 4 lines, the sultan that built this fortress tell the story that he built this fortress. Al-Aziz Uthman, the sultan, built this fortress. But what's very interesting to see is the last row, because in the last row we understand that he's writing that he finished the fortress in 1230. Now this fortress is about almost 4.5 miles, the walls around the fortress. When they build the fortress in the beginning, he's building 5 watchtowers and almost 4 miles of wall. And he built it in 3 years. And that was in 1227.
Wow.
The Ayyubians at the time don't have any slaves. No one's getting money for his work. They're building the fortress because the Sultan is telling them that they need to build the fortress. He's not even a Sultan at the time. At the time, he's only the son of Salah ad-Din the Great. But the fact that he asked them to build him a fortress is enough. 3 years.
Wow.
No concrete, no nothing. Rocks that they put one on top of the other, which is pretty amazing. In the next tower that we'll visit, we'll try to understand how they literally build it. But this is one of the gates. How do you build a gate? The first thing that will be in the entrance to the gate is bars that will stop the people from getting in. Then there'll be 2 arches with a gap between them. And in the end, there'll be a wooden door. How do we know that there was a wooden door? Because when you cross it in a second, you can see it on the right and on the left side, you can see square holes in the rock, which means that there was a huge log that locked the gate. Okay? And if by any chance you're one of the enemies of the Ayyubians, and let's say you crossed the bars somehow, and you were stuck in the wooden gate, then you lift your head up and you saw 2 arches with a gap between them. And before you manage to ask why is there a gap between them, not but boiling oil. Easier. Make falafel with the oil and then Now, this fortress is very, very different from huge fortresses you can see in Europe or in other places in the world, because this is basically was built as an army base. Which means, for example, when you enter the gate, and ignore this wall in front of you because it's not a part of the fortress, you need to turn right. Which means that it's very easy for the soldiers that serve in this fortress to protect it, because the only thing they need to do is stand on the other side. Everything in the fortress is built in a very, very smart way to protect this area. So what we're going to do now is we're going to walk a little bit, we'll reach the other tower, and then we'll understand how they actually build this fortress.
And the glue, that's the good question. Nice and cool. I've seen that. But still amazing.
Yeah, it's totally.
3 years. I think
These rocks must weigh hundreds and hundreds.
and make them fit for
Where they went. Look at that. Wow.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
This is incredible, you guys.
The steps are a little bit steep. Slowly. There's a bell on the right side. If you want to fall, try to fall on one of your friends. Thanks for the last video. Michael,
This is my friend. You can follow me.
Interesting, there's a whole room here that I'm sure it had a use. Very small though.
Okay.
All right, here we go. And that up there is the hole that we had in the ground above us. This is where an archer might have shot arrows out at those trying to climb up the hillside at them.
This is how they're building the whole fortress. With sand, with rocks. Look around you and you'll see that there's no cement anywhere. There isn't any use of cement in the fortress, only in one place. In the center water hole, the center system, they use cement. Cement at the time was, first of all, very, very expensive. Second of all, very hard to find. And that's the only place they use it. So here the rocks are putting one on top of the other, slowly, slowly, but as you can see, still here for 800 years, so they probably did something right.
Right here.
There you go. Yesterday when we sat down for lunch, I wasn't sure.
It was good, but boy, it was 90. Exaggeration. It was more bones than meat.
Yes, that's true.
I don't think the electricity came with it.
Let's go, guys.
You may sit at my right.
So looking at these two, it's
So it looks like at some point this caved in.
And if you look on the places where the altar will stand, look how accurate it is. How much effort they're making to building the exact right angle that the altar will stand with the Golan Heights and aim what it needs to make. A lot of effort in this building. They're not going to have it anywhere. It doesn't matter if it will take them 10 or 20 years. They will do the exact watchtower they need to do. And why do we do that? Because they understand that what they will build, that will be their legacy for the years to come. This is their business card. Nimrod Fortress is the business card for the Lebanese. Half of Jerusalem is the business card of the Lebanese. Lion gates in Jerusalem, the meaning of the word bypass, the name bypass, in an old language called Obscura, it means lion. And every place bypass has come through history, he had a personal stonemason. The only job he had in life is curving lions. And every place that he conquered, he put a lion, the rotation of the air, and the sand stay here. So the fortress covered with sand in the beginning of 1900.
Thank you.
That looks like some nasty water down there. Nasty water. But I wonder if that's where they kept the water. Ah, and there's a way to walk in and use your bucket to get some of it out. Interesting. view from up here. Just look at this. Look at this. And there's nothing sneaking up. I mean, if you're a soldier up here with a bow and arrow, or eventually with a long gun when gunpowder was introduced, I mean, there is nothing sneaking up on you up here. You can see everything from above. Up to the place. This place is just huge. He told us there was 4.5 miles of wall around this place. And it was nothing but a military installation. No comfort whatsoever. Not designed for comfort. Just designed for military. I want to take a peek at this opening right here and see what it is, because they put a railing around it. That looks like, look at that. That is a staircase to somewhere, possibly down to the water. Time to go. We're heading for the bus. Nimrod's castle. I hope you enjoyed it.